In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how we can create this toolbar, which is going to be resizing every time we scroll down and up. As you can see, we're only resizing it depending on how much we have scrolled, and not only the height of the toolbar, but also we're changing the size of the text view inside of it. So let's see how we can do that. The first thing is we initialize our variables, and these will be for the maximum scroll, for the extended height of the toolbar and collapsed height of the toolbar, the size and the collapsed size of the text size. After we decide what the values are going to be for the extended collapsed sizes and for the maximum scroll, what's next is to calculate how much we would like to change those values every time we scroll. And we're going to do that by creating a new variable, which is going to be current offset, and we're going to be using derive state of. So we ensure that our composition is not being recomposed too much. So we should be just scrolling smoothly without any lag. Well, inside of it, what we have here is an offset, which is how we're going to be calculating our actual offset. And this offset by itself, it's being returned depending on how much the first visible item is being displayed on the screen. So what that means is currently, because we're using a grid layout, we have two items that are at the top. So what's considered the first item is our most left item in our case, which is her loss. And depending on how much that is scrolled, it's going to be the returned offset. But let's say that this item, it's no longer visible on the screen. So what happens here is that the offset is being reset, and the next first item, which is going to be the current one, and this is going to be this Taylor Swift song album. And now if we scroll it, this should be the reset position. To check how this actually works, let's create one print with the offset and the index so we can actually visualize it. As we can see, we have index 0 and our offset. But let's see what happens when the item disappears and the next one comes into the view. As we can see, the maximum offset, the current offset, is being reset to the 0, and the index, it's 2. So as we can see, the first visible item, it's now with index 2, and the offset is reset. Just keep this in mind, because if you think that this offset is based on how much we have scrolled, it is just the offset of the first visible item. I mean, it is what it says it is, but it might be confusing if you think it's just the position of the scroll. After that, what we have here is, because we know that our maximum scroll is 30 density pixels and our item height is actually much larger than 30 density pixels. So we know that every time we scroll, the maximum scroll will always be reached before the first item disappears. So knowing that, we can just do a check here. If our first visible item is greater than 0, we can just set the maximum scroll so we don't have to do any more calculations. And if it's not, we can just do our calculations. And the calculations are very simple. It's just we get our offset and we give it a minimum value and maximum value. So coercing just ensures that the offset or whatever is being returned here is going to be contained in those values. So we will not have more than the maximum or lower than the minimum value. So that's how we calculate our current offset. After that, we're going to be creating a couple of more variables, and these are going to be for the actual height of the toolbar after we have calculated it, the text size, and the fraction. And as we can see, the fraction is just simply we're getting our max value, the current offset, and based on that we're just calculating the fraction. Nothing scary here. Knowing the fraction, then we would like to calculate our height and our text size. Checking the height, again, it's nothing complicated. We just would like to check if the fraction is 1, then we're returning the max size. If it's 0, we're returning the minimum size. And if not, we're just calculating how much should be the size of that toolbar or the text size. Now that we have those variables, And when we set them to the toolbar and to the text view, and when we scroll, we should be seeing the text view changing and the toolbar changing as well. But what we can see as well in our demo here is that our text position is also changing. And this is usually not that complicated, but because we're changing the text size at the same time, we're going to have to calculate a bit more stuff. So here's how we do it. When we go to the text view that we have a bit more calculations than here. So not only we have our end text view, which is this part, but what we have is a wrapper, which is measure unconstrained view width. Again, this is in the project and you can check it out. And what this does is it just calculates our view with subcompose layout. So before displaying it actually on the screen, we already know how much is the width and the height of our view. And when knowing that, the parameter that the view to measure is what we're giving here, it's actually the view with the toolbar text size. And when we pass this, after that we're receiving two variables, which are going to be for the width and the height, which are going to be the calculated width and height from the text view we have passed. And inside of it, we're just setting up our actual text view that is going to be displayed. The only different part here in this text view is that we have this modifier.layout, and inside of it, what we want to change is the offset of the X position and the Y position. Now we're changing the Y position as well, but we don't need the actual text view height because we just would like to calculate it based on our parent. And the X offset, it's calculated by just measuring what the mid position should be for our text view. And also we're calculating it depending on the fraction. Now, when we know all those values, we just put them in the place relative, and this just sets the view position. And as we can see, just by doing this, our text view is being resized and our toolbar is being resized as well, depending on how much we have scrolled. I hope this helps you understand how we can do such an animation. Usually you might have different cases, again, depending what you're using, grid layout, vertical layout, maybe horizontal layout, or whatever the case is. It might be slightly different, but as you can see, it's not that difficult to manage such an animation. Thank you for watching. If you liked the tutorial, please leave a like and subscribe for more.